October 27th, 2009, 1 decade ago, an underrated masterpiece was released. I'm of course talking about Ratchet and Clank Future: A Crack in Time. Okay, now first of all, admittedly, nostalgia fuels a lot of the reason it's at the top of my list. I mean, come on, there's games out there like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Breath of the Wild, Terraria, fight me, Mario Odyssey, The Last of Us, I get it. But bias aside, A Crack in Time truly stands high, even to this day, 10 years later. And honestly, I don't believe it gets the recognition it deserves. Sure, it was the fastest selling game in the franchise, that is of course before the 2016 reimagining broke that record, but I hardly ever see anyone praising it in today's culture. And not just this game in particular, but the franchise as a whole. So to celebrate the 10th anniversary of my most beloved game of all time, I want to take the time to talk to you about why A Crack in Time is truly one of the best, and why you need to play it. But before we jump straight into A Crack in Time, it's worth addressing the string of games before it. Especially the other two future-titled games directly before it that lead up to this magnum opus. So, quick timeline of the franchise. Ratchet & Clank came out 2002 for the PS2. Developed by Insomniac Games, who just came off their major success of Spyro the Dragon. Yeah, you know them. Not this one. After Spyro, they were looking to make a new IP. Long story short, an intergalactic journey with a Lombax and defective war robot team up, jump planet to planet with crazy, wacky, hilarious weapons to save the galaxy. The game was a hit. They followed up a year later with arguably the perfect sequel, like Uncharted 2 level perfect sequel. That is in terms of topping the last game, not so much in scope. Those are very different games. But that game was Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. The duo are sent to a new galaxy with a new problem, while Insomniac expands on everything right with the first game and adds so much more to complement its existing elements. Then in 2004, on to Up Your Arsenal. Yeah, each subtitle is an innuendo, by the way, if you couldn't tell. But new galaxy, new problem. Again, bigger and better. Then they changed things up a bit in 2005 with Ratchet Deadlocked, where they focused on a grittier, arena-based gameplay. Now for the sake of time, we'll jump over the two PSP spin-off games developed by High Impact Games, as they are, well, spin-offs, so we'll just ignore those for the rest of the video. So at this point, we have 4 games, an established IP, beloved characters, and a mascot for PlayStation. Well, during the PS2 era anyways, as the games were very successful back then, but I feel this is where the franchise got a little overshadowed by games like Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, BioShock, Assassin's Creed, Portal, and that's just when the first PS3 title, Tools of Destruction, came out. The PS3 Future Saga wasn't a failure, but 9 times out of 10, whenever I come across somebody that has played Ratchet & Clank, they played the PS2 games. It appears that the PS3 titles are more on the level of great indie games where you probably at least heard about it and heard they were great, but never played it. I mean, Insomniac themselves have actually noted that they always kind of saw themselves as underdogs in the industry. Look at them now. But with other titles of theirs like Resistance 3 and Sunset Overdrive, both didn't sell too great, but were acclaimed to be absolutely fantastic. By the way, if you haven't played Resistance and you have a PS3, you gotta play them. And Sunset Overdrive was recently ported to PC, so you don't have an excuse for that one. Then there's Ratchet & Clank, which is currently 11 games in. 13 counting the spin-offs, 15 counting mobile games, and 16 counting the collection, 19 counting ports to and from portables, and 20 if you count the movie. Yeah, lots of Ratchet & Clank content out there. So A Crack in Time is number 7. So, 7 games in, why is this one the best? Well, let's begin to hone in on the future trilogy. When Insomniac moved to the PS3, they wanted to hire an actual writer for the games instead of the whole team coming up with it. They wanted to focus on a story-driven trilogy this time around. Previously, the games weren't very contingent. For instance, I played 1, 4, 2, 3, and then it wasn't until the second PSP spin-off that I realized there was an order to the games. The story just wasn't the driving factor to these games. Not that the story was bad, it was great. They just were mostly standalone adventures, only really tied together by the first and last cutscene. But now it was time to dig deeper. This started with Tools of Destruction. This game starts to explore who our characters are. There's still a threat to the galaxy, but now it pertains to our hero's lore. Who is Ratchet? Why is he the last of his kind? What is his purpose? What is Clank? Questions this game starts to ask. It makes the player more invested in the character while still delivering incredible and fun gameplay. As the title suggests, there are many tools of destruction, 16 to be exact. And they are all inventive, innovative ideas. Even the Clank gameplay is newly fleshed out. Levels are bigger, weapons are badder, and the story is deeper. Then it comes to a close, with a major cliffhanger. So a year later, we were greeted with Ratchet and Clank Future: Quest for Booty. This is a shorter, non-essential experience, though it is very enjoyable and I definitely recommend it. But it was really mainly made just to give the player some closure and answers to tease the next game. The big one. A Crack in Time. Here we are. It all comes together here. What makes this one stand out more than any other? Well, the weapons, and the gadgets, and the armor, and the planets, and the exploration, the Clank gameplay, the music, the art style, the characters, and most importantly, the storytelling. The accumulation of it all. 7 games to get here. After falling in love with a franchise for 4 games, then establishing a deeper narrative with the 2 before it, we finally get to see it all at its best. Let's start with the weapons. I have to admit, this is probably the weakest element here. Not bad by any means, just compared to the other aspects of the game, I feel it should have a lot more to it. Now there are 20 weapons, but most of them come from Tools of Destruction, and the newly added ones honestly don't do much for me. However, there is one thing they absolutely nail here, and have never done before or again. The Constructo weapons. A pistol, bomb glove, and shotgun, with customizable trigger, chambers, and upgrades. You can have a rapid-fire coil explode on impact, or a charged beam with fire damage on your pistol, or with your bomb glove you can do a shockwave proximity bomb with toxic effects, or a timed skyburst with shrapnel. 81 combinations across 3 weapons. Amazing. This is something I would really love to see again. Now naturally, we can move on to the gadgets from here. I won't spoil too much of what is offered, but I will discuss the main one. Hover boots. My absolute favorite gadget in the franchise. They do make an appearance in later entries, but it's nothing like it is in this game. You're now able to zip through levels at your own pace, fast or slow, and there's a variety of new hoverboot obstacle courses to do for collectibles. There's only so much to say about this, you really need to experience it for yourself. It just adds so much mobility and movesets that really enhance the experience. Now real quick, I wanted to touch on the armor. It's minor, but honestly adds a layer of depth and detail that adds to the aesthetic of the game. So almost every game has an armor system of some kind. There's about 4 or 5 in each title, usually a bit different than the last, and the final one is typically some kind of full suit. In this game, they follow the same formula, but the difference is, each armor looks practically the same. It's all part of the same set, clearly. Only small minor changes like the length of the helmet or adding a visor, but besides that, all they do is change the color. Except for the last one. And really, this is just one of my favorite parts of the game, and really my favorite armor in the series, to be honest. What makes it so great is that in the rendered cutscenes, Ratchet is wearing the same armor no matter what set you're on. They just make it a neutral gray color. So no matter where you are in the game, the cutscenes don't feel like it's pulling you out of the immersion. That's still you, no matter what armor you have. The grayness of it just kind of looks like how any of the armor tiers would look in a cinematic medium. Like they put some kind of movie filter on your armor, and no matter which one you have, it'll just kind of look like that gray one, if that makes sense. But enough of that. On to the planets. There's a wide variety of levels in the game, just as there is in the others, really about on the same level as the planets and Tools of Destruction. However, there is one in particular that stands out to me, as it is my favorite level, maybe in the whole franchise, at least top 5. Planet Lumos, Krell Canyon. This was actually the level they had put out as the Ratchet demo just a few days before the game released. This level starts in a cave with puzzles and platforming and hitting some heavy plot points. Then it opens into a massive open canyon. With the previously mentioned hover boots, you can zip around, fighting enemies and exploring the many hover boot tracks that lead to collectibles. This is one of the most open world type experiences you'll get in a Ratchet and Clank game. Which segues nicely into the next topic, the exploration. Now there's plenty of alternative routes in the planets, though not as many as the original games, unfortunately. But I mainly wanted to talk about the space exploration. In all the previous titles, when jumping from level to level, Ratchet and Clank hop in their ship, and you're greeted with one of the best loading screens in all of gaming. Actually watching them fly across the galaxy to the next planet. No actual loading screen. Beautiful. But in this game, they took it to the next level. You want to go to the next planet? You fly there. This is probably my absolute favorite gameplay element in the whole franchise. It's done so well. And there has been some space missions in the past, but they left a lot to be desired, to say the least. In A Crack in Time, you're on a single 2D plane, you explore a small solar system with about 2 to 3 planets, but what else do planets have? Moons. And you can explore those moons all the way around. There's always one of 3 types of moons. Either killing a certain amount of enemies, searching for the collectible, or platforming either with or without hover boots. And for a bonus feature of coolness, on each moon, when you open up the map, it just zooms out and let you rotate the whole moon. Now, this whole moon thing is a callback to the second game, Going Commando, where they were introduced. They're just on a whole other level in this game. This moon exploration element alone adds so much to the game in terms of content and playtime. This is probably my most requested idea to be brought back in a future game or games. But that's not even all of it. When you're not on a moon, you're flying through space, listening to one of the 4 radio stations, either fighting off enemies, talking to NPCs doing side missions for them, or checking out the local depot. Just flying around with the fan favorite pirate radio is one of my most cherished memories. Then, once you're done in that system, you check out the galactic map and jump to the next, which again is actually a great segue into the next point: Clank gameplay. Clank has had a few gameplay sections in every game leading up to this, except Deadlocked and Quest for Booty, but again, they took this to a whole new level in this game. Clank isn't just a special mission, he's half the game, so it's only fair his gameplay is at its top notch. And it certainly is. Clank now has more mobility options like a triple jump, and finally gets his own weapon, the Chronoscepter, which he uses to control time to an extent, and for the first time fight bosses. Though the main star here is his new time puzzles. Clank will record multiple instances of himself pressing buttons and throwing time bombs to have his past selves help him move on. It's enjoyable as hell and brings a wonderful and welcome balance to the game, as all things should be. I consider Clank's level of gameplay to be my second favorite element of the game, right behind the space exploration. I wouldn't want my perfect Ratchet and Clank game balanced any other way. Now this is totally minor, but worth mentioning: the music. All other games have been composed by, I'm gonna butcher this, David Bjerregaard, but with this game, they went with, I'm gonna butcher this one too, Boris Shallow. The soundtrack to all the games has always been my favorite, and the soundtrack alone I feel is underappreciated. In A Crack in Time, however, as they wanted to take a more story-driven approach, they also took a more cinematic, orchestrated direction with the soundtrack, and it's beautiful. Give it a listen, after playing the game. One other minor thing worth mentioning here is the art style and design. They decided to go with a more cartoony style this time, and they honestly nailed it. My favorite looking Ratchet game to date, even above the 2016 title. Yeah, I said it. That's my opinion. I like it, okay? At least it's more fair to say Ratchet's character design in this game is way better. But again, just my opinion. I am also a little biased because of nostalgia. Now, I also believe this is the only Ratchet game to run at 60 frames per second. They sacrificed some minor detail for a smoother frame rate. And honestly, probably an unpopular opinion, but I would take this trade any day. Nowadays, developers make nearly everything on console a solid 30 frames per second and focus on the detail. But personally, I find the frame rate to be much more noticeable. We're starting to see diminishing returns as far as graphics, so I would rather see something smoother now, and I'm glad they made that decision with the game 10 years ago. But again, that's just me. On to the characters and story. The characters are hard to talk about without spoiling too much, but if you played the game, then you know. Fan favorites make a return in the best way possible, and interesting new ones make an appearance which adds to the complex depth of the story and brings importance to our hero's path. There is so much emotion shown throughout the cutscenes and even some gameplay segments. Supporting characters in the game are the strongest they've ever been, and their dialogue is solid as well. TJ Fixman, the writer, just does a fantastic job letting us learn about our favorite characters in the most interesting way and just the way we want. So yeah, it's truly a magnum opus of a game, and that's why I love it so much. A 7-game journey across 7 years with all the best parts and even some new ones coming together for this epic gamer moment of a game. If you're wanting to jump into this, I would suggest you first play the PS2 titles, probably on the PS3 collection, or on PS2 if of course you'd prefer to do that. Ratchet Deadlocked, the 4th game, is the most skippable if you're not into the waves of enemies and arena combat situations, but again, a great experience and I recommend it. That is also available on the PS3 store. However, it isn't necessary to play the PS2 titles, as it would only add appreciation and connection to the characters by the time you jump into the Future Trilogy. But the Future Trilogy itself does a great job at doing that. But you can definitely find the PS2 titles for cheap, so if you have the time, I would definitely recommend it because you'll have a blast with those. Then, when you move on to the PS3 Future titles, you'll start with Tools of Destruction. Next is Quest for Booty. Again, not essential, but definitely recommended as it is cheap, short, and a fun experience. There's at least one reference to it in A Crack in Time, but it won't leave you scratching your head. This game is also available only on the PS Store and also on PS Now. There is a physical copy, but it's only available in PAL regions. So after Quest for Booty, you're on to a Crack in Time. As you totally can just play a Crack in Time standalone, you'll still have a great time, but if you want to get the most out of it, at least play Tools of Destruction first. And then if you can, play Quest for Booty just for the heck of it, it's a great time. If you're looking for more after a Crack in Time, All for One follows up as a 4-player co-op experience, which you can play single player, then Full Frontal Assault as a tower defense game, also with a co-op option. Then they go back to traditional gameplay with Into the Nexus. Only downside to that one is that it's super short, about as long as Full Frontal Assault at about 5 or 6 hours. Then finally is the reimagining of the first game on the PS4. Probably the most well-known one today. It's a fantastic game, just targeted for a much younger audience, but it's still a great time and it really relaunched the series. It actually did so well that I'm quite certain that there's going to be a new Ratchet and Clank game coming. So if you click that I card in the top right corner of the screen, you can see my video where I discuss why I'm so sure a new Ratchet and Clank game is coming, what that game might be, and when it might be announced and released. So check that out if you want. You might want to start playing all those games to gear up for a potential new one coming soon. But I'd say the essential ones that you really want to play is Tools, Crack in Time, and Into the Nexus. So there you have it, the breakdown of a decade-old masterpiece. I hope you enjoyed this. Please consider subscribing because I don't want anyone to miss the future Ratchet & Clank discussion videos I have coming up. I'm going to be theorizing about the next game, analyzing elements of the past, and some fun special Ratchet & Clank things I won't spoil yet. I also do lots of different things, whatever I'm feeling, so check out the channel for more. This was a ton of fun and a ton of work, so please, like the video after you subscribe, and tell me your favorite Ratchet & Clank game in the comments below. Always down to discuss this franchise. Really, it's all I want to talk about, so please, let me know your thoughts on what I've discussed. Thanks everyone. See you soon. Peace.